Alright, so today we're adding 7 and 8 to our table of contents. Remember, I have your number 6, so I'll get that back to you hopefully tomorrow. If not tomorrow, definitely Wednesday. I still got some people making it up that I need to get theirs from them. Alright, today for our notes, we're talking about measures of variation. Alright, and this is number 7. Make sure you put number 7 and your name. All right, measures of variation. Now, last week we talked about measures of central tendency. Now, remember, central tendency was the center. So it's different ways that you can find the center in statistics. There were 3 different central tendencies that we talked about. We talked about the mean. Raise your hand if you can remind me. How do I find the mean? Juliana.
You add all the numbers up and then you divide by how many are there.
Perfect. We're going to add them all up and divide by how many numbers there were. So if there were 5 numbers, I'd add and divide by 5. If there were 12 numbers, I'd add and divide by 12. So for the mean, we add them up and divide. We need to know that on the test Friday. We'll also practice it Wednesday and Thursday in class again. The other way to find the center was something called the median. How do I find the median? Malachi. It has to be in the middle, but there's something we have to do before we just pick the middle. Gabe? We've got to make sure they're in order. If I just pick a random number in a random order, then that middle number doesn't mean anything. So for the median, we need to put them in order and then pick the middle. What about the mode? That was my other central tendency. What is the mode? The mode. Sasha? The number that's there the most. Okay, so we have median, average, add, and divide. Sorry, the mean is the average, add, and divide. The median is the one in the middle. Make sure they're in order. And then the mode is the one there the most. Today we're going to talk about measures of variation. So we need to talk about what a measure of variation is. A measure of variation, instead of doing the center, it describes the distribution of data. What does the word distribution mean? Juliana? To hand out. So it describes how the data is not handed out, but in this case we're going to say how the data is spread out. So maybe we should put that in here. How the data is spread out. So it's how the data is spread out. Are y'all okay with that? Distribution means you're passing it out or handing it out or spreading it out. Okay. All right, so when we're talking about measures of variation, we have a bunch of different things that we're going to mention. Guys, the main things that we're looking at that are measures of variation are the ranges. Because range, remember, that's the big number minus the small number. It tells me how far apart they are. Doesn't that mean if it's telling me how far apart they are, how it's spread out? Y'all see that? So the range, this is going to be the measures of variation. I didn't do that fancy thing. I just kind of drew 2 lines, kind of go into that. So the ranges are really what we're talking about when we're saying measures of variation. Now, in order to find this range, this is a special range. We have not talked about this. It says interquartile range. So before we can talk about that, we need to talk about what on earth quartiles are. Y'all can see the word quartile here. Y'all see that? So we need to know what a quartile is. Okay? So guys, I want us to think about that prefix quart. What does that usually signify to you in math? Maggie?
I think about the quarts are in a gallon.
Like 4 quarts are in a gallon. 4 quarters are in a dollar. So whenever we see quart, we're thinking about it breaking into 4 pieces. So a quartile are values that divide the data into 4, so there's that 4 equal groups, or 4 parts. 4 equal groups or 4 equal parts. So you're still seeing where we're getting 4 pieces, 4 things. Go ahead. All right. So I want us to think about if I'm dividing something into 4 groups. So let's say I'm just going to kind of draw a line. All right. This line is going to represent my data. That's like a bunch of numbers. Pretend there's a bunch of numbers there, okay? When I want to split that into 4 pieces, would y'all agree a good place to start is by splitting it in half? Let's just find the middle. What is that middle part called? What is that called when I'm finding the middle? That's central tendency. What was it, Caden? That's the median. Okay. So, even though median is central tendency, do I need it to be able to split up my data? Yeah, because it helps me find the middle. So, it's not a measure of variation, but it does help me to split up my information, okay? So, my median, we split it in half. Are y'all okay with that? Okay. If I look at the bottom part, if I want to split it into 4 pieces, what am I going to do with the bottom part now? Juliana? We're going to split it in half again. So I'm going to look at this lower side and I'm going to split it in half again. Guys, what you just did without even realizing it is you did the lower quartile. So we're going to write that down and then we'll go back up to the top. So the lower quartile is the median, which means the middle. The median of the lower half of a set of data. So it's the lower half of your data. Okay. Okay. So going back up to my drawing real quick. So here's my drawing. So that means this right here, when we split that lower half, that lower quartile, we can just write LQ. Y'all know I don't like to abbreviate much, but I'll let you abbreviate that to LQ, all right? So now I have 1 piece, I have 2 piece. What do I need to do, though, to split this one equally? Juliana?
Just put a line in the half.
Yeah, we're going to find the middle again. Put a line at the half. Now, guys, this time I'm splitting the upper side in half, the bigger numbers in half. What do you think we're going to call that? The upper quartile. That's going to be our UQ. And do you see how that's created my 4 equal spaces? All right. So let's kind of write that down as our definition again. So upper quartile is the median. I'm going to underline the word median in both of these because that median, that middle is important. The median of the upper half of data. Okay. All right. So now that I found the lower quartile and the upper quartile, let's talk about interquartile range. So that's called IQR because you have inner, quartile for Q, and then range. So that's why we're using IQR there. Any ideas on what I'm going to do to find the IQR? Any ideas? Yes, Maggie?
I think you would add the upper quartile and the lower quartile, and then you would divide it by 2.
No, that would be the mean. If I wanted to find like an interquartile mean, I would add and divide. But this is saying the interquartile range. So think about what the range is. Sasha?
Do the lower quartile minus the upper quartile.
Very, very close. So the range means, guys, the range is where, like the regular range is where I take my big number and subtract the smallest number. For the interquartile range, I'm going to take my big quartile and I'm going to subtract my small quartile, my upper quartile minus my lower quartile. So the way we're going to write that and the way you'll see this definition on your test where there is vocabulary is going to say the difference, because what does the word difference mean? Subtracting, difference, and just in case we need a reminder, we want to put a little subtraction sign right there. So the difference, I'm going to underline that too because that's a vocabulary word we've used, of the upper quartile and the lower quartile. I think I just ran off the screen a little bit. Nope, I didn't. Good. All right. All right, I want us to look at something real quick. So what we're doing when we're looking at the interquartile range, we're looking at this information. Do y'all agree? How much of the information is that in green? It's half of the information. Do y'all agree? So the range is how far apart the entire data set is. The interquartile range is just how far apart half of the data is. All right, so let's kind of write that under here because I think that is interesting. So when we're talking about the interquartile range, half would be the same as 50%. Do y'all agree with that? So that's 50% of the data. Okay. All right, now my range, we've written this definition down before. I'm just going to fill it in again for us. It's the difference, because difference means to subtract, just another little reminder, the difference of the greatest number and the smallest number. All right. Remember, so the interquartile range was half of the data. The entire range is the entire data. Are we okay with that? So if we wanted to write down here, this is 100% of the data. Okay? All right, an outlier. An outlier. This is the one that has given people the most trouble. We're going to try to keep it as simple as possible. Guys, an outlier is literally a number that jumps out at you as being a lot bigger or a lot smaller. So like if I gave a test and every person in the class made an A or a B, but I had one person, maybe because they were out, maybe they had something going on with their family, maybe they didn't do any of their homework for like a month, and I had one person in the class that made like a 32, but everyone else made an A and a B. Would I have an outlier there? Yeah, that 32, that grade that's much, much lower than the others. Do you think that happens a lot? No, guys, outliers do not happen very often, all right? But we need to be aware of them. So let's say an outlier is a value that is much higher. I'm going to underline the word much because it has to be significantly bigger. Or much lower than the other values. Okay. All right, we're going to look at example 1. Example 1, starting with A. A says to find the range. Now, y'all know me. I'm kind of weird. I like us to label it when we do it. So I'm going to write down range and show what I'm doing. Raise your hand if you can remind me. What am I going to do on this problem on choice A to find the range? What am I going to do, Julia?
You're going to get your biggest number and then subtract it by this.
Okay, so what is my biggest number here?
11.
So I have 11, and it said 11.0, so I'll write down 11.0. Minus my smallest. What's the smallest, Juliana?
It's
7.5. So when I work that out, what do I get for the range? Maggie. 11 minus 7.5. What did you say? 3.5. Yes, I'm sorry. I heard 8.5. Yes, 3.5 is correct, which is what you said. I'm sorry about that. All right. So now it says B. What is it telling me to find on B? The median, the lower, and upper quartile. So I'm going to do median first. What do you think I need to do to find the median? What should step 1 be, Jordan? Put them in order. So let's start with the smallest one. What's smallest? 7.5, and then I'm going to mark it out. What's going to be next, Harper? After 7.5. 7.6. And next, Camilla? 7.7. And you notice, guys, every time I write down a number, I'm marking it out. So I don't write any twice, or I don't leave any out of my list. All right, what's next, Gabe? 8.9. Comma. All right, and then what's going to be after that? Hayden? 9.0 or 9. And then next, Michael? 9.5. And my last number, Rebecca? 11.0. Okay. All right, so I have all of my numbers. Now we want to find the middle. So, guys, I'm just going to use my finger starting on the outside because these have a lot going on with the decimals and all. So I'm going to start on the outside. I'm going to go in one, go in another one, and then in my median, I only ended up with one number. Y'all okay with that? Okay, so what I want us to do here is a little bit different. I want us to circle that median. Circle that middle number, and I'm just going to write underneath that that is the median, that is the middle. And I'm going to list it over here as my answer, 8.9. So my work here would be my list and circling it. That's the work I'm looking for. Okay, after we find the median, it says we got to find the lower and upper quartile. So I'm going to do my LQ first. LQ. Any ideas on what the LQ is going to be? How am I going to find it? What's my LQ? Malachi? Okay, so on the lower half, now what do I need in the lower half? So those are my lower half numbers, but which one of those is going to be the LQ? How do I tell what the LQ is? Layla? Which one's in the middle? So what's in the middle on the bottom? 7.6. So I'm going to circle that, and that is my LQ. So 7.6. Now, guys, I want you to think back. Sometimes we'll have two numbers in the middle. What would I do if there are two numbers in the middle? And this is in the median, for the LQ, for the UQ. If there are two numbers in the middle, what do I do, Jordan? I would add them and divide by 2. We're going to find the middle of the middle numbers, basically. All right, let's do our UQ. What is my UQ going to be here? My UQ, Gabe? 9.5. So I'm going to circle it and label it as UQ. 9.5. All right, so guys, this is what I want you to notice. When I did that, it split up those 4 numbers into 4 pieces. Do y'all see my 4 pieces? There's only one number in each piece, but that's okay. All right, let's see. C says to find the interquartile range. So C, and I can label that as IQR. Interquartile range. What am I going to do to find the interquartile range? Caden? 9.5 minus 7.6. I'm just subtracting my quartiles now. So 9.5 minus 7.6, what do I get there? Maggie? 1.9. All right, and then we have D as our last thing. It says identify any outliers in the data. So that means, like, if there's an outlier, write it down. If there's not, tell them there's not one. So on this list of numbers, do you see a number that jumps out at you as being really far away, way higher, or way lower? Do y'all see any that jump out? Now, they all kind of look, I mean, they're all at 7 to 11. They're not, none of them are really far away, are they? Like 7.5 and 7.6 are super, super close. Definitely not an outlier. 9.5 and 11, are they far away from each other? No. So are there any outliers here? No. So I'm just going to write no outliers. Now remember, guys, we said, do outliers happen a lot? No, outliers aren't going to happen a whole lot, guys, all right? No outliers. All right, let's flip it over. All right, on number 2. For number 2, we're wanting to do the same thing, but this time it gives me palm trees with some information, and it gives me pine trees with some information. Now, guys, on your homework, you're going to have one like this. It says compare and contrast the measures of variation. I want you to mark out where it says compare and contrast. We are just going to find. In the 7th grade, you'll be doing more comparing and contrasting. For the 6th grade, we just need to be able to find each number. That is our goal for 6th grade. In the 7th grade, you'll go into the depth more. You'll talk about what all of them mean more. All right? Okay, so let's start with palm trees. And guys, I'm going to need as much room as possible. So that line that's kind of cut off, I'm labeling that as my palm trees to save as much space as I can for my work. Y'all see how I wrote palm trees right there kind of in the middle? And then I need pine trees as well. Pine trees. Okay. It says to find the measures of variation. So guys, that's that range. That's your quartiles, which include median, upper quartile, lower quartile, because you need your quartiles to find your interquartile range, and then you want to say if there are any outliers, okay? So we need these numbers. Now guys, at the end of the day, to find my quartiles and all of that stuff, when I write those numbers, I need to put them in order. So are y'all okay with me just going ahead and doing that to start with? Let's start off by putting them in order because it's going to make the rest of my math a little bit easier. So for my palm trees, what's my smallest number? Ansley. 15. And what do I need after that, Braden? 22. After 22, Mason? 25. After 25, Aiden, kind of tricky. Be careful. What do I need after 25? 30. Excellent. And guys, that's on the line below. That's why I said that one was tricky, because you got to make sure you find it when you see the and 30 down there. All right, after 30, Lauren? 40. And after 40, Bailey? 50. Excellent. Okay, let's go ahead and do that for our pine trees too. What's my smallest number on my pine trees, Camilla? All right, and after 45, Rebecca? 60. And after 60, Gabe? Ramira?
70.
Awesome. And after 70, other Gabe?
75.
Awesome. And 75. So there are two of them. Thank you for listing both. And then my last number, Alan? 80. Excellent. All right. So I just went ahead and listed them both out to get that out of the way. Now let's focus on our palm trees, measures of variation. We're going to start off with the range. How am I going to go about finding the range on the palm trees? Hayden? 50 minus 15. Big minus small. 50 minus 15 gives me 35. 50 minus 15 gives me 35. So we have our range. After our range, if you need to look back at that first one we did, that's our list of what we're looking for. So after our range, we want to get to the interquartile range, but I got to split it up. First thing we do is split it in the middle. That's called the median. So I need the median. All right. Ooh, what happens when I try to find the median here, Ansley? There's two numbers. Y'all see that? Now, guys, I want you to pay very close attention to this. I'm not going to circle them because are either of those numbers the actual middle number? No. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line going through the center here. You see how I drew a line there? And that line is the actual median because that line is in the middle. Do y'all agree? Now the only problem is I need a number to go with that line. Any ideas on what I can do to get a number to go with that line? Because there's not one in between them. What can I do, Hayden? All right, we're going to add those up. So if you wanted to kind of make that kind of like a little plus sign, just to remind us. So 30 plus 25, what does that give me? 55. And then what do I need to do? Because, guys, I want you to think about that. Is 55 in the middle of 25 and 30? No, so we're not in the middle yet. What do I need to do now, Lauren? We're going to divide that by 2. And what do I get when I do 55 divided by 2? What does that give me, Caden? 27.5. Guys, is 27.5 in between 25 and 30? Yeah, because that is my middle number. Now, guys, did I circle 25 or 30? No, because they are not the median, okay? They're not the middle number. So now when I do my LQ, how many numbers are on the lower side? All 3 of them. If I had circled those, then would I have had 3 numbers there? No, we've got to have the 3 numbers here, okay? Could you have 2 in the middle on your LQ? Absolutely. We do not here. What is my LQ going to be here, Braden? 22. So my LQ is 22. What is my UQ, Aiden? 40. So the middle of the upper side, 40. Perfect. Sometimes they seem too easy, don't they? IQR. What do I need to do to find my IQR? Gabe, you got that for me? What do I need to do to find the IQR? Look at our definition if we need to. Rebecca? Close, not add. Real close. Subtract. So we're going to do 40, the big number, minus 22. If I do it the other way, I'm going to get a negative. Isn't that kind of like a red flag? Something went wrong? All right, so 40 minus 22 is 18. Okay, there we go. All right, looking at my palm trees, guys, are there any outliers? Are there any numbers that jump out as being like, whoa, that's too big? Or, whoa, that's too small? Maggie? 50 is only 10 away from 40. And those numbers are pretty big, aren't they? So 50 doesn't make me go, whoa, that's really big, because it's compared to 40. It's not that different. All right? Guys, there are no outliers here. Like when I say it has to make you go, whoa, it's got to make you go, whoa. Okay? Is there anything that makes you go, whoa? No. All right, Malachi? 15 is only 7 away from 22. So that's even closer than 50. Okay. All right, let's look at our pine tree. So we're doing the same method here. So let's do our range. How am I going to find my range? Malachi. Awesome. 80 minus 45, which equals 35. I'm going to go ahead and speed us up a little bit. The median. What happens when I try to find the median here? Maggie? I got 2 numbers in the middle again. Remember, I draw my line. That line is the median. So what am I going to do with those 2 numbers? Since it's a line, what am I going to do? Gabe? Add them up. That gives me 145. And what did you say I divide by? 2. Divide it by 2. 145 divided by 2. Someone help me out with that. What do we get, Cade? 72.5. Is that in the middle of those 2 numbers where I drew my line? Yeah, it's between 70 and 75, so are we good on my median? If I got a median and it was not in the middle, that means I did something wrong, okay? All right, what about my LQ? LQ, Lily? $60, awesome. That's my LQ, 60. What about my UQ? My UQ, Brayden? 75. Camilla, my IQR. What am I doing to find that? Subtracting what 2 numbers? Not 80 and 60. What's my upper quartile? What's my UQ, Camilla? What did we write down as our UQ there? So we're doing 75 and 60. Remember, the interquartile range, the Q range, is where we need to subtract the Q's. Okay? So 75 minus 60 is 5. Hold on, did I do that right? Yeah, 75 minus 60 is 15. Thank you, 15. Not 5. I'm confused. All right. Outliers. Are there any numbers that make you go, whoa, that's way far away? Julia? Is 15 away from 60? I mean, it's far away, but when you're looking at numbers like 45, 60, 75, 80, is 15 really that much? No. So guys, again, there are no outliers. Remember when I told you at the beginning of class, outliers don't happen a lot? Have we even seen an outlier yet? No. So maybe let's look at some examples of where we would see one. All right. So on number 3, this gives me a list of numbers. And guys, I want you to notice this list of numbers. It has 88, then it has 251, then it has 275, then it has 354, then it has 1121. What do you notice about those numbers? They're in order. Do you think that's important when I'm looking for an outlier? Maybe so, because it helps me to see really easily. So guys, are there any numbers here that make you go, whoa, that's like way different than the other ones? Braden? 1,121 is definitely way different than the others. Juliana? 88. It is, but if I look at 88 compared to 251, 275, 354, like when I'm comparing those, it is a little over 100 away. But is it one that's like way far away? If I'm already talking about numbers in the hundreds, does like 100 far away seem that big of a deal? No. So the only outlier here is the 1,121. And do you see how that's like, whoa, it's way, way, way different. 88 is close to 100. So let's say if this was 100, would that really look that different than the 2 and the 300? No. So, but the 1,000, that's going to be the one that jumps out. Does that make sense? You can have more than one outlier. In this case, though, we would not count 88 as an outlier, right? Because the numbers are already so big, that one's really not that big a difference, okay? All right, let's look at number 4. So again, I'm going to write the numbers out just so they're all together. So I have 23.
Teachers and students, I just wanted to make a quick announcement, give you a heads up. We've got a number of folks who are going to be walking through the building for a little bit. So just, you could just disregard them. Wanted to let you know that we've got these people walking through. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so 23, 48, 49, 55, 57, 63, 72. Are there any numbers that jump out at you as being different, way different than the others? Sasha? 23. Now in this case, like 23 and 48 are only like 20 apart, right? That doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But if I look at all my other ones, like 48 and 49, they're like 2 away from each other, right? 63 and 72, they're under 10 away from each other. This is like half away. So do y'all agree that that's a bigger distance? So yes, 23, we will count that as an outlier because that one is significantly away. Guys, this is technically closer than my 88 and 251, isn't it? But my gaps here are bigger, my gaps here are smaller. Do y'all see the difference there? All right, an outlier should jump out. If it's not jumping out and making you go, whoa, it's not going to be one. On your test, you should be looking at obvious ones, like that 1,121. All right, I'm going to pass out our homework for tonight so we can get started. Are there any questions about these? Real quick, just because I want to mention this. On number 3, because we didn't have any like this on the test, 275, what's that called? The median, very good. What happens when I try to find my LQ, though? There are 2 numbers, so what would I do? Draw the line. Add them together, 88 and 251. Can someone do that for me real quick? 88 and 251 gives me a number. What does it give me yet, Maggie? 339, and then I would divide that by 2, so what would I get there, Aiden? 169.9.5, and that would be my LQ. Do you see how even if there are 2 numbers in the middle, I can add them? So I can add those and divide by 2. When I work that out and add it and divide by 2, I should get 737.5 as my UQ. All right, so I just wanted to kind of show you that you can have 2 split for your LQ and UQ. Are we okay with that? All right, now I'm going to stop it and for real pass.